this is looking pretty encouraging in Bitcoin, I have to say. 5 waves off the low, even for a sort of armchair kind of simple Elliott wave people, 5 waves off the lows is always going to get your attention. But the confirmation that this is a bullish reversal comes from the correction, not this first rally. So now we're waiting for our pullback, and then we see how that unfolds, and we go from there. If we see 5 waves down again and then another 5 waves up, we're still in a correction and we've got some funky triple zigzag going on. If we don't, if this pullback here is more, we're looking at a chart of ETH, not Bitcoin. They're pretty much the same at the moment. But if the pullback is choppy, if the pullback is overlapping, you see how when we rally, we have a move and then we consolidate sideways, and then we have a strong move and consolidate sideways. This is what a trending market looks like. But in a correction, very often the price action will be choppy, overlapping, the waves will bleed into each other. And if we see a correction like that, which is 3 waves or 7 waves or sometimes even 9 waves, then that will be a correction. I realize I'm looking at ETH, but if we look at Bitcoin, we've got the same 5 waves. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the 5th wave usually has to subdivide into 5. And so far we are still owed one more push higher, which is quite interesting because in all of these markets, in Bitcoin and ETH, we're at the 50% retrace of the last 5 waves swing lower. And that 50% level very often is support and resistance in a correction. If we roll over at a 50% level, it kind of implies, correction still. If we did roll over at a 50% here and we didn't make a new high, then we would be looking for 50% back. Mean reversion and mean reverting markets tend to keep mean reverting. And if we did 50% back from here, if we did stop here, if we didn't get that final 5th wave and we came back 50%, then we would be looking, at the moment, this is Bitfinex prices, we'd be looking back to around 3,550, and this previous wave 4, which is normally a normal correction. So 3,550 Bitstamp. If we looked at this in Tether, at Binance, this is quite interesting because when I look at every other Bitcoin chart, so Bitstamp, Bitcoin Base, we're at that 50% level. But when I look at it in Binance against Tether, we're not quite at that 50% level, although we are at these previous lows. And so we do still have room for one more leg higher against to get, and then still be at that 50% level. And then the same rule would apply. If we roll over at a 50% retrace level, you're normally looking for mean reversion going the other way and 50% back. And it does very often imply a correction, 50%. I'd be very happy if we went beyond these 50% levels and did something like that. Abbott is suggesting that I look at it at USDT BTC. Let's see. Gosh, it's interesting, isn't it? When TradingView calculates it the other way, we are still at that 50% level. And technically, still a bit of a correction if we do that. So whilst I'm quietly optimistic, and we could be starting a rally that goes into New Year, with this 5-wave correction, I am just really, our confirmation is going to come when we see how the retrace or the bounce works out. And so again, if this is 5 waves down, so far we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, and we should see one more leg lower. But those 5th waves very often fail, or they can just be like marginal. They can be like a marginal new low that tricks everybody and then comes back. So they can be quite small. So we need to be a little bit careful. So that's how I see Bitcoin US dollar today. It's been a really impressive rally. I really like how it's unfolded. I expect one more push higher, and then I think that we'll see a correction or a pullback, and how that correction unfolds will tell us a lot more about whether we really have made a bottom or not, and whether we can get excited. So, and then, I really do think that we could make a pretty good argument for a Bitcoin rally over the holidays. You know, we've seen almost every weekend when the market goes quiet that it doesn't sell off, that it's usually supported, that it tends to squeeze higher. And so, you know, a Christmas, New Year rally wouldn't be out of the question. And then, you know, seasonally, Bitcoin does tend to have a weak period at the beginning of January, and we could see a pullback then and see how that wakes out. So that's how I see Bitcoin, 5 waves, and we've got exactly the same pattern in ETH. 5 waves. We're looking for a final 5th wave in this last wave, and we're at that 50% level potentially. This is Coinbase prices for ETH. So, you know, let's see how it unfolds. I'm going to take that away. If we come back and look for support in ETH, you know, we've got a really good strong support and resistance level here at 100 in ETH. I think a really bullish shallow pullback in ETH back to that 100 level would be quite something. That's what I'd be looking for in ETH when we roll over. And if we roll over here in this pullback, I think 100 level, a retest of 100 would be a pretty good place to look for some support and resistance in Ethereum. Now, one of the ones that I think has done a really impressive breakout today is Ripple. Most of the other coins that I look at, so for example, if we look at ADA, which has had a really impressive rally off the lows, we can say that ADA is stuck at the 236 fib level and previous lows, hasn't made a new high. So we haven't really reversed the trend in ADA, and we're kind of at interesting resistance. We're at interesting resistance in Dash. You know, we're at interesting resistance in quite a number of these coins. Neo, that everybody looks at, previous highs. You know, we're not quite turning, you know, if you consider that a downtrend is lower lows and lower highs, then we need to take out one of these highs to make higher highs and reverse our daily trend. And in Dash, you know, we haven't quite done that yet. We're stuck at the daily 20 moving average, and we're stuck at those previous highs. As soon as we start seeing that turn around, then we can talk about potentially we've made a bottom in some of these. But Ripple is a bit of an exception. And Ripple has gone beyond that 236 fib. If we look at Ripple on the daily, we've gone, you know, beyond. This is the high that was the last one in our downtrend here in Ripple, and the 20 moving average. And we've really got ripped through that one and pushed higher. We've ripped through our Fibonacci resistance as well. So Ripple is looking pretty good for higher. If we continue in Ripple dollar higher to 50% of this high to low, we're looking at 0.4276 in the 200-day moving average for our resistance here. So Ripple, I think, is a good one on dips to outperform at least. So that's where I'd be looking for next in that one. So some decent moves going on, and there's some pretty good setups out there as well, but just again, be careful. We are at a resistance in a lot of pairs, and we could potentially see some pullbacks. Thanks for watching and subscribing. If you didn't already know, I do a live stream on Monday nights on my Facebook page, facebook.com/NickTrades. I usually look at 30 to 40 coins, and I do it every week. If you'd like to join me, then, and you've got a request or a coin you'd like to look at, then leave a request in the comments below. We'll try and take a look at it tonight.